guys, welcome back to 428 Shibuya Scramble. This is DJ Gamer Girl signing on. So, last episode, we finished up Minodikawa's 11 o'clock chapter and started Osawa's, who seems to be in a bit of trouble. With who? We don't know. But we were sent pictures of something that happened in South Africa. Something about a virus called the UA virus? It's spelled UA, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. And when Osawa asked what they were, the only response we got was, "Your crimes." So something's going on. I think he's being blackmailed, but so far there hasn't been a... That's literally like the only real wordy response we've gotten. We haven't, like, pay me this much, or this goes on, nothing like that. Also, I called up Tanaka over the intercom. "There's something I want to show you. Could you come in here?" He needed a second opinion, and Tanaka could be relied upon. Osawa opened the door the moment Tanaka knocked. He looked around before ushering his vice director inside. "What's this about, sir?" "This." Also, I showed him one of the images. Tanaka's face went pale. "It can't be..." Tanaka clearly recognized the symptoms of the UA virus. "Any idea what this is about?" Also asked. "No, sir. These images were just emailed to me. The subject line says 1 year ago, South Africa. That would put it around the same time as the most recent run of infections, wouldn't it, sir? But that information isn't..." Tanaka trailed off. Osawa nodded. "The thing I don't understand is why these pictures were sent to me." Osawa opened up the other email from A. Excuse me, sorry. "The second message I got says that these pictures are my crimes." "I'll look into it on my end, sir," Tanaka said. He hesitated uncomfortably. "Sir, just to make sure, Are you asking about what I think you're asking about?" Osawa said. Tanaka gave a slight nod. "Understood," Osawa said. "Don't worry, I won't trouble you." "I appreciate that, sir." Visibly relieved, Tanaka left the study. Osawa brought up a folder marked UA virus on his screen. Within the folder were enlarged images of the virus itself. He double-clicked one of the images. It blew up on the monitor to reveal the pathogen in intricate detail. A specimen of the UA virus was approximately 100 nanometers in diameter. 10,000 of them in line would take up barely a millimeter. But a single, tiny variant upon entering the human body could become 2,000 in an hour. That speed of multiplication was nothing short of astonishing. Even the Ebola virus had a typical incubation period of 7 days or so before infectees developed symptoms. We know what the Ebola virus is, but I don't know, like, the specifics. Ebola is widely known for its high mortality rate. 53 for the Sudan form, and 88 for the Zaire. But the Reston variety discovered in monkeys that have been brought to the US has displayed no pathogenicity in humans. That tells me nothing about symptoms. For influenza, it was 1 or 2. But the onset of the UA virus happened in a mere 12 hours. Also, I viewed an image slideshow of the virus's propagation mechanism. It was a fascinating sight, no matter how many times you looked at it. Viruses existed to multiply, nothing more. They had no motives, no driving logic. Nothing but simple multiplication. To Osawa, that fact held a certain air of mystery. If viruses had emotions, how would they feel about their lives? He had thrown himself into virus research in search of answers to questions like that. Answers that no man could truly know. His development of the antiviral agent had really been nothing more than another job responsibility. He felt no particular sense of duty to protect people from a killer virus. He was just happy for a chance to play around with day after day. Another email arrived in his inbox. The sender, A. The subject line, 1 year ago, South Africa. Again. Also, I read the message. Do not look away. These are your crimes. This time, there were 4 images attached. Also, I proceeded to open each of them in turn. The first shocked Osawa so much that he felt like he'd been punched in the head. One of the UA patients from the earlier images was being injected with something. No. Osawa muttered to himself. It can't be. The second image showed one of the infected, hunched over in pain, vomiting up blood. The symptoms had already manifested, but also I thought he could see that some degree of life had come back into the patient's eyes. He rushed to open the third image. It showed a morgue, piled high with corpses. The rictus of anguish on the dead faces made them look no longer human. Various fluids seeped from their eyes and nostrils. The lymph nodes were grotesquely swollen. Small organs that function as part of the lymphatic system in mammals. When a foreign substance invades the body, the lymph nodes detect it, prompting the production of white blood cells such as lymphocytes and macrophages to consume the invader. A viral infection sometimes causes the lymph nodes to swell as a result of increased activity. Ah, so that's how that works. Okay, cool. There were hospital beds stained with massive amounts of blood and gastric fluids. Next came the fourth and final image. More corpses. They had badges affixed to their chests, with various labels. 6 hours past, 12 hours past, and 18 hours past. It looked as if someone had been attempting live trials with the antiviral agent. Osawa didn't consider the antiviral agent ready for release, but that was because his team hadn't conducted clinical trials on humans yet. And there was a good reason why such trials hadn't been conducted. There was no way to test the efficiency of the drug without an infected patient. To run a proper clinical trial, someone would first need to be infected with the UA virus. No matter how effective animal testing had been, if the drug proved ineffective on humans, that person would have a guaranteed death sentence. It was unthinkable to run trials that involved such a deadly risk. And yet, as he looked over the images again and again, Osawa became certain. Without his knowledge, someone, presumably someone from Okushi Pharmaceutical, had conducted human testing with the antiviral agent. The time markers on the corpses in the fourth image were surely there to mark the time elapsed since the onset of the symptoms. A thorough trial would test the drug's effectiveness in those time frames. Osawa slammed his fist on the desk and raged. This was nothing short of vile human experimentation in the guise of clinical testing. The people responsible could not be allowed to get away with this. There was only one person Osawa could trust to keep this under wraps. His boss, Makino. He reached for his phone to call Makino, but he stopped short as soon as he picked up the receiver. He knew he was in no state of mind to have a calm, reasoned conversation right now. Turning to the CD player, he put on Aya Kamiki's latest album. Leaning back in his chair, he surrendered himself to her soothing tones. Bit by bit, he could feel himself returning to a calmer, emotional state. There had been a time when Osawa hadn't listened to music at all. In fact, he'd had no interest in the arts in general, music, painting, cinema. It was only due to a simple coincidence that he had found Aya Kamiki. His daughter had asked for a CD as a birthday present, so we swung by the store to pick one up. Since Kamiki's new album had just come out, there was a display for it in front of the shop. Something about the bright, colorful album packaging had drawn him in. After a time, Osawa could feel himself growing calmer. He took a nice deep breath. I think it's best to try and banish the nerves completely. First, he took a nice deep breath, then he closed his eyes and tried to banish his nerves completely. Inclining his head toward the music, he could feel the melody pervade his body. He could scarcely believe there had been a time when he hadn't cared about music. Surely something that had such a strong effect on the body and mind alike also conveyed a deeper meaning. Osawa let the positive energy flow through him, buoying his spirits. At last, when his mood had sufficiently calmed under the music's influence, Osawa reached for the handset. Yeah, that was definitely a good idea. You want to fully calm yourself before making a phone call, because you might end up getting into an agitated state again if you're not fully calmed down. Oh, Mr. Osawa, did you have to make a phone call? The study door had opened and a stolid-faced man had appeared in the doorway. It was Yoshio Kajiwara, one of the detectives from the Shibuya precinct. A detective with the Shibuya precinct's criminal investigation division. He's sociable but awkward. And despite his reserved personality, he can be quite unsettling. His colleagues at the precinct refer to him by nicknames such as Japanese Columbo and Little Ken Takakura, given his own quirky demeanor as a detective. He struck Osawa as a bit too soft-spoken and meek for a detective, really. And his treatment of the kidnapping case gave an impression of flighty detachment that made him seem rather undependable. No, it's nothing important. Osawa drew his hand back from the phone. Have there been any developments, Detective? Kajiwara shook his head apologetically. I'm sorry to bother you, but when you're finished in here, would you be so kind as to come to the living room? Alright, Osawa said quietly. I'll only be a little bit longer. Kajiwara nodded and departed. What does he have to do with what does Osawa have to do with the kidnapping case? Are Maria and Hitomi his daughters? Has there been any progress? Makino asked as he picked up. His voice was somber. No, Osawa said. Nothing much yet. A tiny sigh came in from the other end of the line. I see. Then what can I do for you? Sir, I'll just get right to the point. Have you conducted clinical trials using the antiviral drug? Makino didn't respond right away. Well, what makes you think that? He asked at last. Osawa described the emails he'd received. When he'd finished, Makino let out his breath in surprise. Not over the phone, he said. We'll discuss this in person. I'll head over to your place when I'm done here. As soon as possible, sir. As soon as I can manage, Makino said. You're not the only person who's busy. With that, Makino hung up. There was no doubt about it then. There had been human testing. Also, I went to let Tanaka know he'd be meeting with Makino. Kajiwara stood in the hallway. That is creepy. That is flat out. You've hit creep factor. You look like you've been waiting there the whole time for Osawa to come out of the study. Yeah. Are you hungry? He asked. Here, I've got something that's good for you when you're that's good for when you're tired. Kajiwara then slipped a hand into his suit pocket. He pulled out a banana. We all know what a banana is. I'm fine, thanks, Osawa said. Kajiwara seemed to lack a detective's sense of situational awareness. Just being around him got on Osawa's nerves. Well, sir, I need you to come with me, the detective said, if you don't mind. He took Osawa by the arm. As Kajiwara hurried him toward the living room, Osawa could hear other detectives talking on the other side of the door. He's working at a time like this? Seriously? Sheesh, I do not give rich people on their priorities. Yeah, I feel bad for his daughter. Her dad's a real piece of work. Nice. They were bad-mouthing him in his own house. He is Hitomi and Maria's father. Oh, I'm really sorry about all that, Kajiwara said, pausing in embarrassment. Also, I'll push past him and open the door. A number of police detectives had holed up in the living room. They went suddenly silent as Osawa entered. So tell me, he said sarcastically, would you rather I stay here weeping as I watch this disaster unfold? The detective winced and grimaced. Forgive me for not being a perfect father, he said, his hostility building. Kajiwara stepped forward to intervene before things got out of hand. Now, let's not be touchy. I am not being touchy, Osawa snapped. But he knew full well that he was. These guys had the time to sit around backbiting him, but not go out and bring Maria to safety. Already close to half a day had gone by without any new developments. The ransom demand had come in the previous night at 8 o'clock. Maria had been abducted roughly an hour before. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., by Hachiko and Shibuya, have the sister Hitomi bring 50 million yen. If not, the girl's life is forfeit. The kidnapper called only once, so the police were unable to run a trace. I'll do it, Hitomi said. Anything for my sister. She didn't hesitate in the slightest at the suggestion that she'd make the ransom handoff. Osawa was staunchly opposed to the idea, but the police were of the opinion that it was better to acquiesce to the kidnapper's demands. Ai's reaction, on the other hand, baffled nearly everyone. We don't have 50 million just lying around. Are the police going to be putting that together for us? Kajiwara stepped in to reassure her. If it comes down to it, the police will be able to help raise the money. Okay, go ahead then. Do it. We need you to pay back afterwards, though, of course. Well, then what's the point of that? Do you care about your daughter, you bitch? Ai's voice spiked up into a piercing shriek. Calm down, Osawa told her. You're making a scene. Ai turned away and up. Why did you marry this woman? She apparently doesn't care about her own goddamn daughter. It's alright, detective, Osawa continued. I'll talk to the bank first thing tomorrow morning and figure something out. And at that, I stormed out of the room. Kajiwara bowed his head several times in apology. As soon as Hitomi has made contact, we'll apprehend the suspect and take things from there. What? Hold on. Will that put Maria in danger? If you let the kidnapper get away with the money, we have no proof that he will return the hostage safely afterwards. There was a certain logic there, also I had to concede. I see, he said. So you're saying that catching this guy will be easier for you if he keeps my daughter hostage? No, that's not what I was implying at all. Kajiwara wiped the sweat off his brow and bowed profusely. At least, I promise we'll get your daughter back safe and sound, Mr. Osawa. Obviously, there was nothing to be gained from further challenging the detectives. Alright then. I'll let the police do their job. Osawa bowed even lower than Kajiwara had. How long are you going to just loaf around? Oh, that's Ai. How long are you going to just loaf around? Ai shrieked as she stormed into the room. Hurry up and arrest this guy! She was becoming increasingly hysterical. An hour had passed since the suspect had taken the money, and yet the police had made no effort to apprehend him. The police apparently had a rule against discussing the operation before it was fully resolved, and so the Osawas had been left in the dark. But they had overheard the task force talking over the wireless, and it appeared that they were deliberately letting the suspect roam free. Hey! I snapped again. If he gets away with our money, you are going to reimburse us, right? Shut up about the damn money, you stupid bitch! One of your daughters... Actually, both. Both of your daughters' lives are on the line now. Not just Maria. Hitomi's is too. Do you give a shit about your family, or are you just an entitled little spoiled bitch? My God. Also a scout. She made it sound like the money was more important than Maria's life. Yeah, thank you. The detectives exchanged uneasy glances. Also, chided his wife. It's only money. It doesn't. Yeah, it's only money. It doesn't matter. The life of a human being means so much more than money. Also, chided his wife. It's only money. It doesn't matter. Only money? Are you serious? Do you have any idea how much we're talking about here? The ferocity in her voice left him with no response. He should have known better than to expect her to make sacrifices for his daughters. By now, he was accustomed to ice coldness toward the two girls. The twins were also his daughters from his first wife, who had passed away 15 years earlier. Ah, so she's a step bitch. Where did you find this piece of work? I had no blood ties to Maria or Hitomi herself. Well, I continued, are the police going to reimburse us or not? She glanced pointedly at Kajiwara. Well, right now we're focused on making sure Maria is safe. I stormed up to him, shouting right in his face. Stop dodging the question! Answer! That's not a question that needs to be answered, you stupid bitch! How many times have I called her that? Yes, of course, Kajiwara squeaked. Maybe, would you like something to eat? To help you calm down? He held out a banana. I smacked it out of his hand. That's assault! That is assault. She made contact. Oh dear, what a waste. Kajiwara scrambled to retrieve the fruit from the floor. Also, I went over to Tanaka and whispered into his ear. I'm going to meet with Mr. Makino. Tanaka nodded silently. Turning, Osawa saw Kajiwara looking in their direction. They made eye contact, but Osawa quickly looked away and strode out of the living room. Kajiwara followed after him. Excuse me, Mr. Osawa? Yes, what is it? The detective fussed sheepishly with his hair and forced a smile. Sir, we'd appreciate if you could remain in the living room as much as possible. Osawa was in no mood to stand on propriety. Look, I've got a ton of work to do, he said. Are you here to tell me to play the role of the grieving father, too? No, not at all. Personally, I happen to think you're an admirable father, Mr. Osawa. Admirable. Does the word have a ring of sarcasm? He had no way to tell if Kajiwara was being forthright with him or not. You're no ordinary fellow, Mr. Osawa. You're a genius. A genius. Me. Osawa made a skeptical noise. Am I mistaken, sir? You've made very important strides in the field of virus research. Or, well, so I've been told. Also, I wasn't sure how to respond. He never considered himself a genius. He was just someone who was more interested in viruses than he was in other people. Everyone who's a genius is also a little bit odd, after all, Kajiwara went on. Probably he'd intended that as a compliment, but still. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with weirdos. So long as they leave us ordinary folks alone, you know? Is this guy trying to praise me or insult me? Also, I let out a heavy sigh. Genius, weirdo, what did that even matter? So long as he could be left to his work, he didn't care one whit how he looked in other people's eyes. Kajiwara wiped the sweat off his forehead with a handkerchief. By the way, what are you working on right now? He asked. I'm afraid you wouldn't understand even if I explained it to you, Osawa replied. Right, precisely. Even if I gave him my full attention, it would still be beyond me. He peered with sudden intensity at Osawa's face. I'd appreciate if you didn't hide things from me, sir, he said. Osawa gaped at a loss for words. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kajiwara said, added hurriedly. Goodness, that made it sound like I'm accusing you of hiding something, didn't it? The detective bowed his head repeatedly. I hope you forgive me. He held out the banana. That won't be necessary. How about this, then? This time he pulled out a bar of chocolate from his pocket. No, thank you. Did this guy just carry an endless food supply wherever he went? Oh my, Kajiwara murmured. You geniuses really are tough to sort out. He inclined his head, mumbling to himself for a moment. What can I get for you then, sir? What I'd really like is some time by myself. In a daze of exasperation, Osawa felt his way to the study. Locking the door, he finally let out a breath he'd been holding. Then his eyes alighted on the bookshelf against the wall. Oh, adorable. Are they kindergartners? Oh, they had to have been in elementary school at the time, though. He pulled out a photo album and began to flip through it. There were pictures of his daughter's grade school enrollment ceremony. Their mother had already passed away from illness, so Osawa had taken the girls himself. He remembered that, after the ceremony, Hitomi came down with a fever. Hitomi had been rather sickly as a girl, falling bedridden at the drop of a hat. Maria, by contrast, had been lively and energetic, quite the handful. Osawa had found it remarkable that the personalities could be so different despite them being twins. It happens. He flipped further into the album. There was a picture of the three of them at their grade school graduation. Maria was looking away from the camera. Osawa felt like someone had stabbed a dagger in his heart. His daughters, or virology? Which truly concerned him more? Which did he truly love? Well, it sounds like your daughters. You do. It does seem like you do truly care about your daughters, Osawa. So, it was ridiculous to try to compare the two. He'd known the answer before he even asked himself. Even so, human emotions were complicated, and sometimes made people act inconsistently. One of the consequences of that was this photo album. This was the last photo he had of Maria. He searched and searched through the rest of the album, but she was nowhere else to be found. And that's the end of Osawa's 11 o'clock. Cool. Now we just need to finish up with Achi. Cars drifted on by, one after the other, but they saw no sign of a blue van. After a while, even Achi began to grow impatient. This was starting to feel like a waste of time. And then... Hitomi, look! There it was. A blue van had appeared nearby, parked in a spot that had been empty previously. Achi couldn't see who was inside, but there was definitely something fishy about it. Besides, there weren't any other blue cars around, so this had to be it. He'd been right. The crooks had come back after all. I'm gonna go take a quick look, Achi said. You wait here. But before he could carry out his plan, Hitomi jumped to her feet. Without a word, she rushed toward the van. Hold on! I said wait! She wasn't slowing down. Achi caught hold of her arm. Wait! This could be dangerous. What if the kidnapper's in there? And what if my sister's in there? I have to go help her. Achi knew full well what it was like to be impulsive. But this was one situation where cooler heads would have to prevail. We can't just hang out here, she insisted. What if the car takes off again? That's why I said I was gonna go take a look first. But isn't that dangerous? What if they do something to my sister because some random guy comes snooping around? Oh. Huh. Yeah, you got a point. Achi thought as fast as he could. The criminal told Hitomi to get into the van. There had to be some specific reason for that. What if they were planning to abduct her as well? Whatever the case, he couldn't just let her go. He had to make a snap decision. Just let me go first. I don't want to put you at any risk. Okay, let's go together then. Does that work for you? Oh, I mean... I'm gonna go with B. Okay, let's go together again. Does that work for you? Please, we have no idea what we might run into. Hitome gave a slight nod. Alright, she said. But let me go first, and you follow, okay? Got it, Achi replied. Achi waited as Hitome started walking, then followed her at a distance, so it wouldn't look like they were together. She headed straight for the van. 2 men got out of the car, neither of them Japanese. Achi picked up his pace in case he needed to close the distance fast. One of the men approached Hitome and said something to her. She gave an affirming nod. Suddenly, the 2 men grabbed her from either side. They dragged her to the van and shoved her into the back seat. Achi broke into a sprint. Of course it was a trap. He couldn't guess what their whole plan was, but kidnapping Hitome was obviously part of it. But before he could reach the vehicle, the door slid shut. The van sped off an instant later. Achi raced after it. He ran as hard as he could, thinking nothing else. He couldn't give up now. Couldn't let things end like this. He'd made a promise. No quitting halfway. And no turning his back on someone in trouble. But the car kept getting further and further away. Before long, it was just a blue speck that had vanished into the cityscape. No! Achi never saw Hitome again. That was a bad end. That has to be a bad end. Yeah, that's a bad end. Lost sight of the van. Achi did try to warn... Yeah. Okay, so I need to put my foot down. Look, just let me go first. I don't want to put you at any risk. Hitome's determination wavered at the look in Achi's eyes. Please, he continued. We have no idea who or what we might run into. If I think they're going to try to run off again, I'll give some signal. Then you can come along. I doubt they'll be interested in leaving then. Hitome gave a reluctant nod. Please be careful. Will do. And tell me if my sister's in there. I will. You can count on it. Achi stepped out into the open and started walking toward the van. He tried his best to look as if he wasn't paying any attention. Yep, I'm just an ordinary passerby. As he got nearer, he tried to sneak a glimpse inside. The van's dark window film made it hard to see who might be inside, or even how many people. Casually, he moved closer still to get a better look. Suddenly, the sliding door burst open and several people jumped out. None of them were Japanese. Within moments, Achi was surrounded. Whoa, what? Hey, what's the deal? Achi said. He let out a little chuckle. Man, that thing must be packed. How many seats you got in that thing anyway? He took another step toward the vehicle and looked inside. One of the men pulled a knife from inside his jacket, thrusting it out at Achi's direction. He probably meant it as a simple threat, but on reflex, Achi went into self-defense mode, kicking him right in the jaw. There was a loud crack as his foot connected. The man dropped, out like a light. The others stared, then rushed him. Well, this sure hadn't gone as planned. Too late to take it back now. The damage was done. Achi was just going to have to take out the rest of these punks, too. He nimbly shifted his feet, evading their initial attack. Having to take these guys on 3-1 wasn't going to be pretty. Achi! He heard Hitome cry out. Crap. He hadn't given any signal, but she had come out of hiding anyway. Hitome, stay back! How was he supposed to fight off 3 guys and protect her at the same time? What could he do? What should he do? Within moments, a number of passersby had gathered around the fight. Maybe they'd heard Hitome shouting. Hey, what's going on? Oh my god, is that a knife? This ain't just some petty squabble. Someone call the police. Some of them began taking photos with their cell phones. One of the men cursed in frustration and signaled for his buddies to get back into the car. Achi couldn't stop them. The engine roared to life, and the van sped away. Knowing he'd never catch them on foot, Achi merely watched it go. He'd failed. This was his fault. All of it. Achi bit his lip hard. How could he possibly face Hitomi now? Achi. Hitomi's voice was hollow, empty. Achi stared down at his feet like a scolded child. I'm sorry. I didn't see whether your sister was in there or not. I see. The words, so simple and matter-of-fact, stunned him to the heart. I'm so sorry. But Hitomi simply shook her head. The fact that she wasn't even chewing him out made him feel all the worse. I know I messed up, but He was going to say, I'll make up for it somehow. But he froze with fear at what he saw next. Across the street, staring at them, was the man with the cane. Hitomi, it's him! They had to get out of here. He grabbed Hitomi by the hand and bolted down Dogenzaka. The assassin followed, staying on his side of the road. Achi wasn't sure what to do. Should they try heading into the alleys and side streets again? No, it was more dangerous to head someplace where there'd be fewer witnesses. Best to stick to Dogenzaka for now. The man wouldn't be able to gun them down if they managed to lose themselves in the crowd along the center guy first. Besides, the guy had to use a cane. Achi and Hitomi could outrun him. Hand in hand, they sped along Dogenzaka and through the intersection in front of the 109 building. Come on, Hitomi, just a little further. Okay! She was panting, but pressed on. Achi risked a glance back over her shoulder. Huh? He stopped in surprise. What's wrong? Hitomi asked. That guy, he's not following us. The slope leading down the intersection wasn't all that steep. Several plainclothes detectives have been hiding amidst the crowd in the intersection as part of the kidnapping stakeout. Right now, Detective Kuze is sending a message to all officers over the wireless, and so the detectives have stopped to listen in. It's a bit unusual, an observant individual might notice. It was strange that the gunman hadn't bothered to pursue. Still, there was no time to worry. Actually, in the background, you can see Kano. Still, there was no time to worry about his behavior right now. Hitomi, can you still run? Yes, I'm alright. This is our chance. This way. They needed to put plenty of distance behind them before the assassin came after them again. But they also needed to find the van again and rescue Hitomi's sister. Would they be able to find it and yet stay hidden from the man with the cane? Haji wasn't sure one way or the other. But with Hitomi in tow, he hurried onward along the center guy. Yes! We're done with the 11 o'clock stories! On to 12 o'clock. I still have no idea what Tama's connection to this is. Like, seriously. Like, no idea what Tama has to do with it. Her story just seems to be completely disconnected. I kind of want to continue it just because of how silly it was. I love it. I loved it. I'm not entirely sure what Minorikawa's connection to the kidnapping is either. It seems like he's just trying to help a buddy out. The only characters that I know that are connected to the kidnapping case are Achi, because he's with Hitomi, Kano, because he's one of the detectives looking for Maria, and Osawa, because he's the girl's father. Otherwise, I have no idea what Tama and Minorikawa have to do with the story. I mean, we may find out later on, but right now, they're inconsequential to the main story. But I love Tama so far. I just absolutely adore Tama. Poor girl. Anyway, we will be starting Tama 12 o'clock in the next episode. Till then, this is Gamer Girl signing off.